Good evening. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to tonight's episode of FLPC Presents 585 Live, where we discuss all things cannabis and how it relates to you and I. I'm Random Man. I hope everybody is having a good week. It's been a interesting week in the cannabis world for the state of New York. I guess the real big news is that the governor this week did sign the conditional cannabis cultivation bill. Basically, in a nutshell, it's going to allow existing New York hemp farmers to apply for conditional licenses so they can grow cannabis in 2022 for the season for the adult use cannabis market. You know, under the law, conditionally licensed cannabis farmers will have to meet certain requirements, including, you know, the safety guidelines, sustainability, environmental friendly guidelines, and things like that. And there's going to be a lot of regulations as well. They'll be able to cultivate under these conditional licenses until June 1st, 2023. They're going to be limited to limited to 1 acre of flowering canopy outdoors, or 25,000 square feet in a greenhouse, which you'll be able to use up to 20 artificial lights. And you can also split it between those with the maximum canopy of 30,000 square feet, as long as the flowering canopy in the greenhouse is under 20,000 feet. So that's big news, I would have to say. So it gets the ball rolling, but really we still need the regulations. We still need the real regulations so we can actually start moving forward with the entire industry. Other than that, I mean, there's been some other news. Well, more news about the social equity program. That's moving forward as well. And I actually am going to have a guest on that, or we're going to be talking about that down the road. So I'm not going to go too much more in detail on that one. Other than that, I just want to say before we get our guest tonight is going to be Jimbo Williamson, the tie-dyed tour guide. He's from Boston, Massachusetts, which is outside of our area, but he's come up with a couple unique ways to find himself a market in the cannabis industry. So I've got him on to talk about that. Before we get to Jimbo, I just want to talk about, there's a ton of different, several different like hydroponic stores in upstate New York. And when at first, everything started to become legal and everything, I decided I wanted to go around and try going through all of them and try to get know the people, and find the ones I was most comfortable with. And I know you guys have seen me, we've done some live feeds with Rochester Hydroponics at their Webster store, and we've had Rich on this show, and we've even done a live remote at their place. And by all means, is this not an endorsement or a partnership or anything, but I've got to say, by far, Richie and the crew at both Rochester Hydroponics stores are top notch. Richie really knows his stuff. So definitely go down and check out his stores. Just to tell you how much I like Richie, there are other stores that are within 10 minutes of me driving to that I'm not going to name. However, in getting to know everybody and everything, I would rather drive the 25 minutes to Richie's store. That's how good of a guy he is. So yeah, if you need any hydroponics equipment, seeds, or soil, anything you need, he's got it, or he can get it for you. And I think if you even, he might still be running a 10% deal if you walk in and say you just mentioned FLPC or 585 Live. But so if he's still running that, great. If not, I'm sorry. But yeah, go check that out. And then this Saturday, we're going to have some people. He's going to be at an event in Victor, and we'll have some people there with him handing out some pre-rolls and stuff. So definitely check that out as well. Now, on to our special guest interview and everything that we have going on for tonight. Basically, our guest is a good friend of mine. I've known him for a very long time. We've gone back, oh, how long has it been? I would have to say probably since 2010 or 11 or something like that. But we've known each other for a long time and become good friends. And he's always been an interesting guy. He's always had this tour guide where you take you on a walking tour of Boston, and he knows his history. And when Massachusetts went legal, he wanted to find his niches in the cannabis industry. So he found a really unique way to do it. And he's actually come up with two unique ways now. So I'm going to go ahead and play the interview, and then afterwards I'll be back to wrap it up. So I hope you guys sit back and enjoy. And once again, thank you for tuning in. Tonight, our guest is Jimbo Williamson. He spent the most of his adult life in Boston. He's been a lifelong deadhead and a longtime cannabis enthusiast. I got to know Jimbo from our passion for the fish from Vermont. The reason I really wanted to have Jimbo on tonight is that he's has started two unique cannabis businesses. There are a lot of people who tune in that are looking to find their fit into the cannabis industry. Sometimes you really have to just, it's best to step outside of the box, and that's exactly what Jimbo did. And I think he has a good story to tell. So thank you for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Fish just announced their tour. We're getting ready for summertime. Glad to be here with you, bud.
That's good. I wish we could spend the entire night talking about Fish announcing their summer tour, but we actually have bigger fish to fry to say. Now, I was hoping you could start off by just taking us backwards down the number line. Give us a brief rundown of how you started and how you've gotten to where you are in the cannabis industries and how you came up with your ideas.
That's a good one, man. So I've been just kind of recently in this industry. I've done a lot of different things that have led me to where I am, kind of incrementally, and it all really took COVID for me to go out and take the chance to kind of make my own space. The two things I run are my own little business. It's called the Tie-Dyed Tour Guide. I am a tour guide in the city of Boston. I do my own tours. I have a couple that are pretty successful. I have a Pizza Beer and Paul Revere tour. I got a Wicked Winter Wonder Walk tour, and the one, of course, we're going to talk about today is the Bostoner tour. It's pretty neat, man. We get to go check out our city while enjoying some cannabis, which is really neat. And it's one of the only tours, if not the only walking tour in Boston that includes cannabis in its tour. The other thing I have come up with, in partnership with my way better half, Jelly Bean. Yes, that's really her nickname she goes by. We have started something called Growing Together. Growing Together is a online-based, community-based learning platform where we teach people to grow their own medicine at home. And it's pretty successful, We not only taught folks how to grow their own at home, but we also gave away half of our classes to disabled folks and those that are veterans. So it's just something we really believe in. And it's not just giving them the classes, we also gave them all the materials to grow. So it's been kind of an interesting road to get here, man. I've been a tour guide for years. separately from the growing thing. I've been a tour guide for a long time, working for other people, and finally I decided to jump out on my own. I started off with Pizza, Beer, and Paul Revere tour, which was really successful right off the jump. People really like it. And when I saw that it was really successful, I've been running it through Airbnb, and I decided to take a chance on the Boston tour. And so far, it's been going really well. We've had a couple people sign up for it. It's only been around for maybe 6 months now, and half of those months have been cold. But people really seem to enjoy it. We go out for a walk. We talk about history. We enjoy the sights, sounds, and well, now the smells of the city too. When we roast up a big joint, overlooking the Boston Harbor. I'm sorry, the Boston Harbor. It's
Now,
cool, man. We grab ourselves a cannoli. We walk through the North End, which is Little Italy, and we shoot the shit. Get to talk about Boston. Get to show them what our city is really like. A little bit off the beaten path, through a different lens, and it's really neat. And that was really just a culmination of years worth of work on my own, of working for other people, and finally being done with it. Just wanted to do it on my own, and take my own stab at it, and try to include cannabis in it because I really do believe in break some stereotypes about it, and also trying to do like some civil disobedience. Listen, it is not necessarily legal to consume in the streets of the city of Boston, but I believe that if we find ourselves a quaint little park we can hang out in, obviously doing no harm, and that's one of the things I'm really glad to try to do, to slowly try to change the opinions of that, which is kind of neat, I think.
right. Now, with the tour, the cannabis, do you actually go to a dispensary with the participants, or do they tell you ahead of time what you want, or?
Yeah, well, it's a good question, man. So we meet them at a dispensary right downtown, right now next to the Boston Garden where the Celtics and the Bruins play. We meet there. They have their choice of choosing anything they like at the dispensary. Some folks grab edibles, some folks grab some flower. And then we kind of make our way out and around, which is really neat. I always bring a bomber joint of something that I grew. We can share if we choose. It's still kind of funny with COVID.
Right.
Everyone obviously has to be vaccinated before they can come on the tour and stuff. It's just city rules. But yeah, it's a pretty neat little tour, man. People have really seemed to enjoy it so far, and it's just kind of cool to get to be myself and do my own thing. And dress up in all tie-dye, which is kind of my new uniform, which is pretty funny.
Right. Now that's always a good thing, knowing you. Now, for the tour, what are some of the highlights, your stops, or do you just do you change it up a lot, or do you always have like the same stops that you show people?
Yeah, it's roughly the same route, and there's a fair amount of history. We're walking through colonial Boston. We're walking through an area that was first developed in the 1640s. The buildings that we see are from like the 1750s to the early 1800s. And there's a fair amount of like Paul Revere's history in there, a fair amount of the Revolution's history in there, just in general. One of my favorites is we walked by and through a cemetery. Copp's Hill Cemetery is built in, I believe, 1659, which makes it wicked old.
Right.
We go check out a couple tombstones, There's one in particular of Captain Daniel Malcolm. Captain Malcolm was a merchant, and he died just before the Revolution. And if you remember way back when, part of the Revolution was fought because we were not being fairly taxed. There was no representation in the taxation. And being that he was a merchant, he was getting taxed for all the stuff he was bringing in, and eventually he got tired of it, stopped paying the taxes, right? So the colonists loved him, and the British hated him.
Right.
They hated him so much that when he died, they took aim and fired on his tombstone. There's a bunch of bullet marks on his tombstone. Even on the tombstone, it says that he was buried 10 feet deep in a stone grave to protect himself from them.
Oh, wow.
He was safe even in death. Yeah, it's one of my favorite little tombstones, man. It's all about the tangibility of history on this tour,
Right.
You can reach right out and touch that. It's pretty cool.
It sounds like a great tour. Now, most of the people who tune in here are actually in upstate New York. But if they were going to come to Boston and wanted to take a tour, how would they get a hold of you?
Easy to find. I am the tie-dye tour guide. You can find me online, TYEDYED, tourguide.com, tie-dye tour guide. There's only one of me.
Wonderful. Now let's go ahead and move into your next business, because this is a business that actually has a lot of things we can talk about right now. As New
Yeah, I'm
York,
psyched to talk about this one.
yep, because New York State is just now getting. They're in the process of finalizing the medical grow regulations. They finished the review period, so hopefully in the next couple months, medical patients will soon be able to grow up to 3 plants in flower and 3 plants in veg at one time. So this is why I wanted to have you talk about this, because this is what you do. You teach people how to grow. So let's talk about growing together. What is it? How'd you come about that with Jelly Bean, and where's it going, and how are things doing?
This one is so interesting, and the story on this one is really neat. I think it started. It started unfortunately when a friend of ours passed away. A kid who I'm gonna call out, my buddy Elmo. Kyle Carrero was he was an excellent dude. He was a huge proponent of cannabis, and its form as medicine. Recreation is great, man. I'm glad that people use it recreationally. If you do, typically you are also using it medically, I feel. But he really fought hard for the medicine end of it, and he was a world-class hash maker, and he kind of had an ethos. His ethos was that if you make $1 off of this plant, you have to give some away. You have to give back. And he used to stand at the Freedom Rally in the Boston Common, and he used to shout at people, you have to give back. His whole thing was to kick it down. If you find someone that needs help, you have to help them. If you can't find someone, ask around. Someone else will know someone, So unfortunately, he passed away. He was a veteran, and man, he overdosed, and it was terrible, and it shocked the community. And Jelly Bean and I have been growing just for one season ourselves at home during COVID, and we had been doing it for fun. Jelly Bean, this is another part of the story that's really interesting. She's my way better half. She's my partner, and she's amazing. She's the brains behind the operation in terms of growing. She has been growing for a number of years. She spent 3.5 years in federal prison because she was cultivating cannabis on the West Coast. She did real time for this cause. So it's really interesting now that we're able to do this in a legal way and to show others how to do it. So we did it for a summer during COVID, and we did a bunch of Facebook videos. I'm sure you saw some of them, and it was a blast, man. Like, it was so much fun, and I'd always wanted to grow, and I never knew how. And she is so very, very good. She's a fine gardener for her own business. That's what she does in life. So we did it, and all our friends were like, man, this is amazing. Like, can you show me how to grow? And I was like, dude, I don't want to come to your house and show you how to grow. It's a walk. It's not easy. We grow outdoors too. And then at one point, we were actually at a concert for this band called Neighbor. And if I haven't told you about Neighbor, we should talk about that off air sometime. But we were at a show for Neighbor, and one of our friends, who this lady named Catherine, she's got to be, like in her late 50s or early 60s. She's an awesome part of our community. She said something. She was like, I just saw this picture she posted today, because we were in full flower. It was a beautiful picture I posted. And she was like, I really want to know how to grow. She's like, I've always been curious, and I use cannabis myself, and I would love to know how to grow. Maybe you could do it online. It's like, oh my God, maybe I could do it online. And I thought for a moment, like, what if I was to make like a video series, and to show people? And I mentioned it to Jelly Bean, and I was like, Meg, what do you think about that? Man, this is a great idea, because in our partnership, she's the one who's incredible at growing, and I happen to be the one who talks real pretty. So we decided to take a look at it, see if we can do it. And she came up with the name Growing Together, which was really one of the most important parts of this, is that we are growing together. Even though she is bordering expert, she doesn't call herself an expert. She doesn't, because she can still learn too. We learned something this summer from one of our peers, that we also know. Everyone's gonna be growing together in this process. I myself had to learn how to shoot, edit, and make videos. We made a website. We did all this. We raised some money. We got it all together. And like I mentioned, one of my favorite parts is that we kept in line with Elmo's cause. We made it free for veterans and disabled people.
Right.
It wasn't just free for the class, which the class was like, it was only like $50 per month. We made it free for the class. We made it also all the materials to grow for free. You know, we gave them soil, we gave them the clone, we gave them everything they needed to successfully grow their own totally clean, 100% organic medicine for themselves at home. And it worked, man. Everyone that joined our class did it. We had more than half our class were folks that, you know, we were able to give away for free. But every single person grew their own medicine. You know, there were some trials, some tribulations, some things that we're going to learn from it in this next season. But Mike, I'm so proud of what we did, and I'm so looking forward to doing it again this season.
Right now, are you just strictly outdoor, or do you do any indoor
so far?
Okay.
We're going to eventually do an indoor one. There is a significant amount of work that goes into growing your own cannabis, and you know, we should take the couple months off just to take a deep breath and go see some shows and stuff. But you know, we're going to do indoors because we're going to do that eventually, so we can kind of, you know, show those that don't have the outdoor space.
Well, when you're ready to go indoor, let me know, because let me tell you, I've got a light. I've got a light for you guys. Be a perfect light for you. One thing, FLPC, we're actually releasing our own. I believe that the first one's going to be a 10-bar light, and then I believe an 8-bar light also is going to be released as well. So
excellent, you know, and that's part of what we do, man. And I would have, anyways. I'm glad to have another person talk about it. We would have been looking, you know, we would have put it out, crowdsourced it, because we have a lot of folks in the community that we look to, because, you know, we may know a lot, but we don't know everything. That's kind of, you know, we are growing together, man.
Right now, so you're outdoor growing. What soil do you prefer? What do you mix? How do you do it?
We do a full living soil, you know. We use compost tea that we get together ourselves, and we really focus just on a 100% organic living soil. It was really, really nice to see how it lives and how everything works in symbiosis with itself. You know, if you provide these plants the opportunity, they really do meet expectations. You know, it's such an interesting relationship that we were able to form. It's so hippy dippy, you know. Me, like 3 years ago, would have kind of scoffed at it, but like really having spent the time in the garden, it's just been so interesting, you know.
Right now, what's your favorite aspect of just the growing itself?
Of the actual growing itself, you know, it's the progress, and it's like, and it happens so fast, and it's so tangible, you know. It's just. It's so right there for you. You know, you can watch it go from a little guy to a bigger guy, and then you have to top it, and you feel so bad when you have to top it. You're like, there's no way this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but you know, it's this relationship that I've never had like that before. You know, it's more interesting, and that's really what the people in the class all kind of spoke to as well. Is, you know, everyone's been a lifetime cannabis user. You don't think about it. You don't really think about the time and the effort that goes into it, and all that work that these growers have been putting in for us for all these years, you know.
Right.
Yeah, just watching that, you know, having that moment when they're hitting that sun, and like the buds smell incredible, you know, the flowers smell incredible. It's just it's such a unique thing. I just, you know, I never thought I'd be that close, you know, and you really can learn a lot.
Yep. Now, so as a new grower is starting to think about growing, what are some of the first things they should consider?
Do they have enough sunlight? That is, and it sounds trite. It sounds like it'd be a silly question to answer. You know, of course I do, or, you know, but, you know, we found there was a couple folks that didn't have as much sunlight as they thought, and, you know, it's one thing I can't go to their house and ensure, you know, so it's like you have to make sure you have enough light, enough space, enough time. It's not easy, you know. I mean, it's not horribly difficult, but it's something that takes time, and it's something that takes your attention, you know. So it's not just kind of a whatever project. Like, you really have to be into doing it, you know, if you want to get really good medicine for yourself, you know. Time and space.
Okay, so that was our guest, Jimbo Williamson, the tie-dyed tour guide. I hope you guys liked it. He brought a lot of insight, not only giving insight in coming up with your own unique ways to fit into the cannabis industry.
Okay, so that was our guest, Jimbo Williamson, the tie-dye tour guide. I hope you guys liked it. He brought a lot of insight, not only giving...
And the reverb, there we go.
Insight in coming up with your own unique ways.
So yeah, that was Jimbo. And so he does bring a lot of unique perspective. He's been around Boston his entire life. So not only did we get to hear about the, his businesses, we got to hear a little bit about Boston and what he does there and why he thinks the town's so special. And then also getting to talk to him with his outdoor growing experience and teaching people how to grow outdoors. It's a great thing that he's doing. So I thought it was important to have someone like him on so we could see other ways to fit into the industry. And so there's a lot of things there that we will be able to learn from. Now, other than that, I hope everybody does have a good week. Next week, our guest is going to be Nick from Gobsmack Genetics. If anybody knows me, they know they want to tune in for this one. This is going to be a good interview. Nick and I have been, working together, since about April or so. So it's not quite a year now, but I'm really impressed what he's been doing. And we're also going to have a giveaway as well. And other than that, I don't think I have anything else to add. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I hope everybody has a wonderful week. And we'll see you next week.